Hello and welcome to the 6th video from P3 Force of Motion on stopping distances. You need to find links to the videos and find out when the videos are coming out. Follow us on Twitter at Dart and Science or use the hashtag Dart and Flipped. The aim of this video is to introduce to you what is meant by stopping distance and to look at the different factors that can affect it, including what can affect thinking distance and braking distance. We should also, by the end of the video, be able to explain the shape of graphs for stopping distance against speed. This here is the information you would find in highway code on stopping distance for various different speeds. So speed is given down the left hand side and the total stopping distance is on the right. You will notice that the stopping distance is split into two different things. They are the thinking distance and the braking distance. The thinking distance is essentially how far do you go before you actually go from deciding to stop to putting your foot on the brake, i.e. how far do you travel during your reaction time. The braking distance is basically the time it takes the car or the brakes to bring the car to a stop. So in terms of thinking distance, it's all to do with your reaction time. So anything that could affect your reactions could affect the thinking distance. Things like your mobile phones, things like alcohol, things like being tired, things like being distracted. This is why recently there has been a move to suggest that younger drivers shouldn't have people in the car with them. This is to avoid distractions, to make sure they're focusing on what they're doing and that their thinking distance doesn't get too high. This is why you see signs on the road that say tiredness can kill, take a break, and this is why it is illegal to use your mobile phone and to drink and drive. Braking distance is slightly different. This is more to do with road or car conditions. Things like, as you can see here, ice or snow. Things like rain. Things like poor maintenance, tyres. Things like the condition that your brakes are in. Those sorts of things. All to do with the effect, things that would reduce friction between the car and the road. The surface of the road that the road's made out of if you're driving on a mud road as opposed to a tarmac road. Right, all these factors on this page here, on this slide, can affect braking distance, thinking distance, or both. You might want to just try and see if you can put all of these things into the different sections before I go through them. Most of them I mentioned on the previous slide. The only one that I didn't is speed. Speed is the only thing really that can affect both thinking and braking distance, as we've already seen. The rest just go into do they affect your reactions or do they affect the conditions. So tyres would go into braking distance. Drugs would go into thinking distance. Talking to a passenger, distraction. Tiredness, distraction. Icy road conditions, braking distance. And worn brakes, braking distance. The most difficult thing that you need to do when doing braking distance and thinking distance is to explain why in thinking distance we have a straight line and why in braking distance we have a curved line. The reason for this is that your thinking distance is dependent on your reaction time. Your reaction time doesn't change. So if you react in the same amount of time each time, the only thing that's affecting the thinking distance is speed, so it goes up in a straight line. However, braking distance is dependent on more things, mainly the energy that it takes to stop the car. It takes more energy to stop a faster car. But the relationship is not a linear one. Velocity increases the amount of energy that needs to stop the car by the square of the velocity. So if you double the speed, you quadruple the braking distance. If you treble the speed, you increase braking distance by a factor of 9. That is why we get this curved line here. The final thing that we need to be able to do is to try and take information off this. So if you were looking at this graph, and you were asked to calculate the braking distance at 15 miles an hour, you'd have to go up from 15, I've done plenty of these now, to the braking distance line and then across, and it gives you a braking distance of, I would say, roughly about 8 meters. And then if you wanted to work out the braking distance for 45 miles an hour, you would do the same. You go up from 45 until you hit the braking distance line and across, and it gives you a distance of 30 meters. So in summary, stopping distance is how far a car travels between deciding to stop and doing so. Thinking distance plus braking distance equals stopping distance. Thinking distance is affected by things that distract the driver and increase reaction time, whereas braking distance is to do with friction, so road or car condition or both. Thinking distance is directly proportional to speed, but braking distance is exponential. That means that if you double speed, you quadruple braking distance because of the square in the equation that you'll come in contact to later on. Thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to bring your evidence to the lesson. This lesson will be on Wednesday, the 30th of April.